Hey, everybody. So we're going to talk about the attitudes that we have to contend with on a daily basis towards, people in business in general, especially people who are successful in business. Most of the time that's external, but if you hear it enough times, which we all hear it enough times, then eventually at some point you internalize some of that and you got to get rid of that or it's going to sabotage your business. I'm sure we can all think of different things that come up. I'm sure you guys all deal with it. We deal with it. I know for me, off the top of my head, just having parents that are a little bit older, there's a whole culture around just getting a job and doing the job and making sure the job has benefits and has a retirement, and you are set. There's no need to strive past that. There's no need to take any risks. You just do your job and you shut up and you enjoy it and you have a good retirement when it's done. And I'm in business because of my dad. My dad always instigated me having my own business when I was a kid, all the way up through whatever. I mean, he didn't really super approve of this business, but I didn't feel anything negative towards it either. My mom's a little bit more fear-based, and I remember, just my whole propensity throughout having jobs. I've always wound up in the federal government area. I've had other jobs besides government jobs, but I always kind of get sucked right back into the government jobs, which I knew that I was not going to survive that until retirement. But I just remember every time I got one, my parents were so happy and they're so, you made it, you're safe. And like, oh my gosh, I can't do this forever.
Yeah.
But that's been that thinking. And then there's just a lot coming from the government itself, from media, from public education towards anything like that, demonizing corporations, demonizing anything where anyone is successful and going after money in a major way, that's somehow bad, and that nonprofits and government assistance is the greatest savior of everybody else. That it couldn't possibly be a business who has a charity on the side. It couldn't possibly be a business that's actually doing good for people.
Yeah.
And none of those are true. I mean, you guys know that, I'm sure, but.
Yeah. And business owners, or just business in general, are often the villains of whatever TV shows, movies, all of those kind of things. So there's this not so subtle, business is bad. And if you're in business to rip people off, which is, there are some people, but that is not the majority of business people. And those people aren't going to be successful for long, because that's just not the way the world works. So
I don't know. I mean, you see a lot of stuff in the corporations. It's like the bigger they get, the more corruption there is. So, I do see their point, but that doesn't have to be true. It doesn't have to be true of us. It doesn't have to be true of you.
Yep. So I think there is and every now and then you'll hear it in the news if you're listening for it, but they'll talk about that small businesses really are the backbone of America in particular, but in any kind of free market capitalistic type society, it's not the big corporations who make the difference. It's the small ones. And I think just in our cultural climate currently, that's kind of part of the problem. They're wanting to have everybody very much, we've talked about this before, all the same, that the communistic kind of everybody's the same, everybody's on the same level, all of that is just very regulated, and small business doesn't do that. So, all of them are unique. If you look at even within similar industries of business, they all approach things differently, and you absolutely should, because your customers are not all the same. And that's, a fundamental flaw of those types of belief systems where you have like the masses and then you have the elite. The masses aren't the masses are individual people. So and God does not see us as the masses. He sees us as many, many, many individual people with gifts, callings, talents, and something that he's given us to do. So, and that very well may be a business. So
yeah, and that's just more credibility towards the usual advice to niche down. Reason for that.
Yeah, because that's
spiritually. Yeah.
Yeah, we are unique. So I think part of the difficulty in discovering our unique selling proposition is we have to get past partly just the pervasive, if you're in business, you only have to be in business for these reasons. And most of those are not good. And we don't see ourselves. We have to fight against that also kind of partnered cultural statement that you are the same as everybody else. And so who are you to think you're any different? Well, because I'm a child of God. So I get to think I'm different because he said so.
Yeah, and I'm gifted to do this thing. Maybe not that thing, but this thing.
Yeah. And then we can be comfortable and confident and not beat ourselves up because we're not good at XYZ because we know someone else is. And that's part of why there's typically in kind of a healthy society an interlinking of many different businesses, because I don't, I can do math, but do not give me federal forms to fill out. Like I will lose my mind. So that is why I hire an accountant. And they bless my life. I'm very happy to pay them the money so that I don't have to, they provide a great service and value to me. So
yeah,
for that. And that's just one instance of all the different multiple layers. If I even though my business is fairly self-contained, I still would be, I think, very surprised at how many different things that I don't tend to think about that, that is me interacting with another business. So the people that make the prints for my artwork, they're a family-owned business. So,
there's thinking about that this morning. I was driving around looking for star thistle of all things, which is the essence that we use for money mentality, poverty mentality, scarcity. I was just thinking, about Adam and Eve and having to do everything. All of the jobs were divided up amongst two people. Everything they needed to do, needed to get, needed to make. Two people.
Yeah.
And here, somebody made my cereal this morning. I didn't do that.
Yeah.
Somebody grew all the stuff to do that.
Yeah. Made the container that they put it in, and somebody shipped it to the store, and the store had it so you could buy it. And yeah, and
here I am doing my little piece looking for star thistle.
And I think that's kind of one of the fallacies in a big kind of modern belief system of that there are too many people in the earth. Like, no, when there are more people, there's more capacity to flourish, because you've got many people doing many different things. So you don't have to, like you said, Adam and Eve, they had to grow the stuff. I don't know if they cooked it, but they had to grow it, pick it, eat it, if nothing else. They had to do all the steps in that process because there wasn't anybody else to do it for them. So, then you're very much tied to an agrarian type existence, which not that that's bad, but there's only so many hours in a day. So
I tried that once.
Yeah.
I tried to live on everything that I grew or fished, or my husband shot. I don't hunt, but
yeah,
it's very time consuming. It's rewarding, and you kind of feel go me, but at some point you decide you do need to get something done and start contributing to society on a larger level than just feeding yourself and existing.
Yeah. And that's so that is the beauty of the system kind of that that God created, as far as having people do different things and having them gifted and called to do different things, so that everybody isn't a farmer. I mean, I guess that's probably the only thing that everybody could do and survive. But
Yeah.
you know, even at that, very early on, there were people that specialized in some crops versus another, or they raised animals versus, row crops, or they, did then animal
Yeah.
feed versus human feed. And, it just,
By the time Cain and Abel came along, they'd already figured that out.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah, we're just going to get more and more specialized, and we have
Mhm.
this greater opportunity now with the internet that we can reach literally anybody on the planet who needs what we have.
Mhm.
So it's wild actually when you think about it.
Yeah, it really is, because there may not be anybody in your particular area, but unless you have, yeah, unless you have something that you have to be face to face for, then guys, that doesn't have to limit your business in any way. So, and I think one of the things too, it kind of, in God's design of business, obviously you're behaving in an ethical and honoring manner. So one of the other kind of fallacies that, or negative beliefs about business that people have, is that if I buy an essence from Seneca, then she has taken money from me. As opposed to, no, I have given her money in exchange for a product that I value more than that money. So I am not, even though money has exchanged in one direction, the value in the equation has actually increased overall, because the healing that the essence provides is worth more to me than the money that I just exchanged. So so whatever that value would be, so I'm just going to round. So if I buy a $25 essence from Seneca, but it's worth $50 to me, which is probably selling it way short, then Seneca has gotten the $25 and then whatever percentage of that is profit. So she's happy. Yay, her, she made a sale. I'm happy because I have this additional value. So the total value kind of exchange isn't $25, it's $75, because it's 25 to Seneca and 50 to me. So there's this, and I'm still kind of trying to wrap my head around that concept. But when they talk about that you create wealth, that's in part how you do that. It isn't just about the dollars that were exchanged, it's about the value and the wealth, and in this case, the propensity for healing. So then I can then go about creating more wealth or more benefit to myself beyond just, taking that so I feel better or I address a particular issue. It can be just many, many times more than that.
I think about that a lot with my products. It's like, okay, this is going to help this person go out and do what they need to do.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the whole world is going to be better.
Yeah.
Because that person is freed up to do what God created them to do. Like and I don't know that we'll ever see this side of heaven. Huh?
So, and that's basically every business, not just my business.
Yeah.
Everybody enables somebody else to go do their thing that they're supposed to do.
Yeah.
In some way.
Yeah. And just like on my earlier example, the accountant, well, that's hours of my life and who probably years and in lack of stress that I now have to do more of what I'm gifted and called to do. So, that's only going to be a win for everybody else. And I think that the whole concept of business is a win-lose proposition is wrong and faulty. So it should be a win-win for however many parties are involved. It should be a win-win-win for everybody that's involved in that process. And if not, then something's not quite right, and take a look at that. So, but
Yeah, if it isn't, then you're going to struggle.
Mhm. Yeah. And I think to a certain extent, or I wonder, if partly like people in the world, people who aren't, um, who haven't chosen to align themselves with God and godly principles, if they get away with more of that in the short term, and God's like, no, we we're going to learn this early so that way you can, because the sooner you can learn, if you've got a wrong mindset or a wrong idea or a wrong whatever, the better, because the consequences of that are going to be less.
Yeah.
So, if you look at it in terms of like kids when they're growing up, if they learn at 5 that dishonesty is a bad deal, it's going to be a whole lot better. The consequences of that dishonesty are probably far less than if they're 15 or 25 or, so the sooner you can learn, the better off you're going to be in the long run. So I think sometimes that inability to prosper off of a win-lose system for us is our benefit. That's our cue. Okay, because we have a greater capacity. So
Well, and I've seen, I mean, I don't know that it's necessarily a Christian thing, because there are a lot of secular people that are using Christian principles and they know that that's the way to succeed. And then I've seen some Christians using really sketchy principles. Well, I won't call them principles, but tactics,
yeah.
and I'm just, yeah, I can't believe they're doing that.
Mm-hmm.
But,
Well, and I think it's partly there are laws around human interactions, just like there are natural laws. So gravity works. It doesn't matter whether you think it does or not. Like it cares not one bit about what your belief system is, what your theories are about it, or how you choose to try and defy it. It is a thing. And yeah, you can overcome it. So with a lot of energy and aerodynamics and all these other things, but it still exists, and it has the same effect on everybody. So I think you're right. I think that the business, I think maybe I said that wrong. It's more biblical principles that we need to make sure
not
we're
wrong.
aligned.
It's just, it doesn't really matter what your faith is. It works, like you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, well, go ahead.
Oh, a great book that I read, and I don't believe it's by a Christian. He could be, I don't know, but it's definitely not a Christian book. It's called Give and Take. Can't remember who it's by, but really good about business and, giving in general. Not tithing, but giving.
Yeah. Well, and
which takes on greater forms.
Yeah. I just finished a book by Rabbi Daniel Lapin, who is Jew, clearly. And it's called Thou Shalt Prosper. And he was making that same point. He was saying, and he wrote the book for business people. And he talks about not just giving, but he does talk about giving and why it's significant, why it's important, and what it does, which I found very amazing. But he also talks about that cultural bias against business and that you have to watch out for it, because just like Seneca said, if you absorb that in, then you're going to struggle to prosper, because there's going to be that disconnect within you but what I'm doing isn't really a good thing. So you can't succeed, knowing that you're or
one of those evil business people.
Yeah.
That's in there somewhere as a core belief that's just under the surface festering.
Yep. So
yeah, I think mine is more like I'm one of those high risk business people. Because I'm not playing it safe, and I'm not I quit my good paying job to go do this. And to this day, I mean, I've been out for I don't know how many years, but people that haven't seen me in a while meet me on the street and talk to me about my job. I'm like, I got out of that. What are you doing now? Oh, my own business. What are you going to do about your retirement? Your benefits.
Yeah. Yeah. We could probably talk about retirement on a whole other video. Or the lack thereof, maybe I should say.
I don't intend to retire.
Yeah. No.
I'm going to do my thing until I drop dead, if I drop dead. I've always had it in my head that I'm going to live forever. So when I was a little kid, I was pretty sure, you know.
That's awesome.
I ain't dying. There's a lot of schools of thought of how that's going to go out too. So
Yep. So, but watch out for any, and just kind of pay attention and be aware if this is kind of a new concept for you as you watch TV or movies, if you do that, or just kind of talk to people or watch the news. Like you hear a lot about the evils of business on the news, which
everybody bad mouthing their bosses.
Yeah.
You know, they won't pay enough to have my house, you know, and I don't know. I see the point, you know, of the people who are upset about the economy and what it takes to get ahead and to live on your own and buy a house right now. And it's all valid. I don't want to be dismissive of any of that, but at the same point, that attitude is super toxic and you can't make yourself a victim.
Mm-hmm. Well, and one of the things that Rabbi Lapin talked about is even if you are an employee, if you think of yourself as being in business and you're in the business of you and your boss is your client or your customer, then you are going to be looking at how can I increase my value to my customer, who is my boss, which is going to benefit both of you. You're going to be, and if something happens and you lose your job, you are far more likely to be able to transition to get another job relatively quickly or go into business for yourself. There's a lot of, if you take personal responsibility and ownership over where you are in life, and not everything is ours to own. I mean, stuff happens to us that can be purely from outside sources. So like Seneca, you know, not to say that if something bad happened, it's because you did something wrong, because I don't believe that. I think that's completely wrong thought as well. But I can always choose how I'm going to respond to something. So, and if I find myself responding in a way that I'm like, I don't like that, then I can change it. So I can make other choices.
I know that running my own business made me a better employee because I could look at things from the employer perspective and go, okay, this is not good. This is not how we should be doing things.
Mm-hmm.
And it was also that I could recognize when I was becoming a bad employee and needed to step out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think, and again, I think even as an employee, it should be a win-win between you and the employer. And so often there's kind of this view that it's a win-lose. That so, and if it's a win-lose, then get another job.
Yeah.
So, but you know, you should be providing a good service in exchange for your salary or your paycheck. So your boss should be benefiting from you even as they're paying you for what you're doing. So, and that's, yeah. Company cultures can definitely shift that into areas that can be very toxic.
Yeah. And it's really common too, sadly.
Mm-hmm.
I was able to shift some of that, you know, through prayer at my old job. went through there one day after work and
Mhm.
really did a lot of, forgiveness that I've kind of outlined in our book, Accessing Your Spiritual Inheritance.
Mhm.
Worked through some of that, and there was a definite difference the next day. So,
Yeah.
you can shift it.
Mhm. And I think as on both sides, as an employee, you have that right just as you did, but also as an employer, if there's things that you're going, okay, something needs to shift, then absolutely you can do the same thing. Pray over your employees, pray over the, contractors or, however your business is structured, you can pray over all those pieces. So so that your
Yeah.
business can do what God created it to do. So, or inspired you to create it to do.
Yep. I would say definitely as an employer, stay on top of those things.
Mhm.
It takes me time and it takes me energy to go in there and do grunt work that I shouldn't be doing at my stage. But
Mhm.
that is what keeps me in tune with what's going on in there and what things are happening, what they're dealing with. And
Mhm.
that I'm the only one that can institute changes like that. So,
Yeah. And I think that because we have such a culture of I just do what I'm told if I'm an employee, or I don't do what I'm told, but I don't certainly try and make it a better place. Um, that it's going to be difficult for you to encourage your employees to come up with or to incentivize your employees to provide you with and 3M was one of the companies I think that did that really well. I don't know if they still do. But the reason why Post-its exist is because they had a program whereby they rewarded employees for innovative products and ideas. So that's and if I recall the story correctly, they were trying to make a strong adhesive and they came up with a really weak one, but they had this brilliant idea of, hey, if we put it on the back of little strips of paper, then we could stick them everywhere. And what would life be today without Post-it notes?
oh man, yeah,
So, and that's a situation where, and I don't remember, it's been years since I've kind of read any details about that story, but I think that the employees got a portion of the proceeds, or I'm not sure how they worked out, but it was a definite benefit to the employee, but also 3M. I mean, who knows how many countless millions of dollars they've made because they've fostered that,
yeah.
that environment of experimentation. So, but I think that's a harder and harder thing to do because if you see yourself as a widget maker in a widget factory that's just punching buttons, then you're not going to be trying to think creatively or whatever. So, which
Yeah,
it's kind of foreign to me because that this is
I
what I'm in
know.
business.
There's a difference. I've hired some are business owners and some are the widget makers, and there's
Mhm.
the business owners will come in and they will talk to me about my systems and processes and go, what if we did it this way? And that's great, but then there's the other ones that will follow. Maybe they'll follow, maybe they won't. They'll do whatever, but basically they just kind of zombie through their day there.
Mhm.
And if it goes wrong, then they don't know how to fix things because they don't really think about it. And
Mhm.
yeah.
Yep. Um, all
Yep.
right. Well, we will talk to y'all next time.